Sean Taylor. Sean and I go way back. He contacted me. My son talked to him, and then we got him on doing shows, and he revealed so much. And then, Sean, you have gone to the top with your information. You were recognized, thank God. But you have been massively attacked, and they tried to take you down, but you're still here. Congratulations.
Brother, it's 16 years now. We've been working on all of this. And you were the first. You and Michelangelo were the first to take notice. And I give thanks to God every day for that. And we've been attacked. And, that's just the evil side. That's Satan who's trying to attack. And you have to pray and God will give you what you need to do, what you need to get through. And that's what's happening. And, we've been going to Maine Justice. We've been meeting with U.S. attorneys. We've been meeting with state attorney generals, and got that start right here with you. So thank you.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Because you were the first to start to talk about the fraud. And, it built from there. And now everybody, you got the social media guys are out there talking about the fraud now and exposing. So you laid the foundation for that. So our whole country and the world eventually, I think, will be very happy that you did that. I don't know if you get the recognition you deserve, but we're giving it to you here. At the end of the day, it's not about recognition. Yeah. It's about getting the job done, and whoever gets the kudos, so be it, as long as it gets done. And that's the biggest thing is, people have to understand that our country is under attack. And quite frankly, society as a whole throughout the world is under attack, and there's no way around it. Europe. Look at Europe and what's happening over there, and look at the Irish and what's happening with Ireland. You have the Irish that are standing up now and trying to fight back, and being vocal about it. And it's time. It's time for that to happen here, and it's long overdue for it to happen here. And Australia has been hit really hard as well. And so to our Aussies down there, keep fighting the good fight, because that's what it's going to take. So same thing in New Zealand. They're basically going into essentially another COVID lockdown because of the fuel crisis. And, it's very fascist what they're doing there. They're going to restrict everybody but the state-sponsored people, the military and government positions. They can continue to use as much oil as they want to. Right. And then there's the tiered system with the individual last. And that's fascism. And we have the same, and everybody's like, well, that's overseas. No, you look at Arizona. Arizona is doing the same thing. Yep. So they brought in all these AI, buildings and so forth. I think like 22, 23 of them. They use a lot of water. Well, there wasn't a lot of snow that fell in the Rockies, Colorado, so that Colorado River is not flowing as much. So who gets last? Those companies, corporations. That's fascism. They are at the top of the list, and then they're restricting individuals' ability to get water. And if you go over that limit, then you get fined even more. So we're seeing a fascism, across America, New York City. It's exploding, and exposing this like we've been trying to do, especially you, because you've reached those high hall levels, which is very impressive. That's because of your dedication and willingness to take on things that most people would not. You've been shot at your home. You and your wife have had to move constantly to avoid problems. They've tried to assassinate your character in public and the press. It's incredible what people go through to expose this stuff, but there's not enough of us that are really doing it. What were your thoughts?
I was really, really happy to see the DOJ take down the Southern Poverty Law Center.
No kidding.
Because that is one of the major operations that's been happening for years to try to discredit people who are bringing the truth. And of course, they're the ones
that really came after me with the local news reporter in Nashville. And of course, we've now filed a federal lawsuit against him, his news agency, and their parent company, eScripts. And we're moving forward on that. And, this journalist got an award for the First Amendment. And here he was trying to crush my First Amendment and me speaking out about the truth. I mean, if anybody's watched the show with me on there, they know I bring the receipts. I bring the documentation. I'm not just, blabbing and not backing up what I'm saying. And, so it was a great thing to see the Southern Poverty Law Center get what it had coming. And I don't think it's over for them. I think as this criminal case goes on further, you're going to see more indictments coming. And I think you're going to see more indictments coming on some local reporters that have been reporting stuff that has been paid for by the Southern Poverty Law Center. And it's going to become a RICO case that has been pushing this cabal agenda across the world. And, you have governments like Canada that are bowing down to a lot of it. And, that's not okay. People are free. And that's just a fact. And, especially here in the United States, we are free to say what we want, provided it does not violate the fighting words doctrine. And of course, who violated that? Comey. And what's happening with Comey now? Now he's been indicted for the stuff that he had stated or put the seashells out on President Trump. And then you tie that into
8647.
Yeah, 8647. When
Whitmer, I call her Whitmer. Whitmer. Basically, she did the same thing. She was doing a public announcement, and on her desk is 8647 letters. So she should stand the same.
And you got to look at her. You got to look at her and that whole thing with that whole kidnapping plot. That turned out to be what ended up being false because they were trying to drive basically a psyop. And people need to understand when they're in a psyop and when they're not. Yeah. And you need to question everything that's happening. And people need to understand that. And when you start bringing the truth, what do? They start a psyop. They start an operation to try to discredit you, because the biggest thing you can do is discredit your character so that the information you're bringing is automatically discredited. Well, when you've been documenting this stuff for over 15, 16 years, and you can bring the receipts, you can try to discredit me all you want. But at the end of the day, the evidence stands on its own 2 feet. And guess what? It's being heard. It is being heard. There are cases going forward throughout the United States. And let me tell you, there's more to come.
Yeah, you've been a great proponent lately of the, taking these groups down and outlining them. Your posts on X have been hitting hundreds of thousands of views. Yeah. So you're getting through. You're getting through to people. People are taking notice. People are interested in this right now. They want to see results, and they want to see people, be held accountable. And I think that Comey, being one of the first, they tried to get him before, and who knows what was happening with Bondi, but now it seems like we got some people that are motivated, and that's one of the things. I've been watching politics since I was a little boy. I've never seen a team like President Trump has. They're so focused and motivated. We've been involved in teams that are highly skilled and motivated, and we're seeing the same thing with the Trump administration. He gives people a chance. He gave Bondi a chance to do the right thing. She didn't, so she's gone, and somebody else is now going to get the chance. But the whole team as a whole is unbelievably focused.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And, people need to understand that these investigations, they take a while because you have to impanel an investigative grand jury. Once that's done, then they have to be able to explain that case to the investigative grand jury. Once that's done, then you have to put together the grand jury subpoenas that you want to send out. So those get sent out. Then it takes time for that information to get back, for the investigators to look at that information, present it to that investigative grand jury. And so this is an entire process. And, you of all people know, before you go to battle, you have to prepare the battlefield. Yes. And that's what I believe this past year has been, was a preparation of the battlefield. Mm-hmm. And now you're going to start seeing what's happening. And you have to look at President Trump and the type of person he is and his personality. And what I'm looking at is he's been pushing the 250th anniversary of the United States very, very hard. When I was at Main Justice, when you're walking into the main foyer out of the library, there's this huge glass display case. And I'm going to say it's probably 50 feet long. And it's probably, I don't know, 2 to 3 feet wide, about a foot deep. And so as I'm walking out of Main Justice, through the library, and you're seeing all this art that's on the walls showing our history through the legal system. And then you see this glass display case, it's like 50 feet long, and you're seeing everything from the beginning of when our country was basically made, when we fought for our freedom. And you have the signing of the Constitution all the way to current day. You see that they're putting everything into this 250th year anniversary. And that's why I believe this month, May and June, you're going to see stuff that you are not going to expect. And, I was talking about it with some people the other day. We haven't seen a firing squad in generations. And all of a sudden, they've brought back the firing squad. That makes you wonder. Everything is always telegraphed. So what are they telegraphing at this point?
Yeah, I think we're going to see some firing squads and hangings. I say don't waste bullets, but maybe that has happened too that way. Now, we were in the Revolutionary War, so 250 years since we got our freedom, and then we had the War of 1812, and we've had the Bar Association here in the United States. I know you're familiar with that, being investigator and all the stuff that you bring in cases for and all that kind of stuff, the British accredited registry. So the judicial system, for the most part, is compromised.
Yes.
And you're talking about, the process that it takes to get somebody, indicted, and then good luck on prosecuting them with this and getting them into jail with this legal system we have right now, unfortunately, right, which is descended from the British Crown, the City of London, which is still controlling us to a great extent. Taxation, property taxes, all that stuff is we're still paying the British Crown. It's ridiculous. What are your thoughts on breaking free from that system and getting to the point where we get the military tribunals, perhaps?
When we look at everything with like USAID and Doge and all of that, we have to disrupt before we can dismantle.
Yeah.
And so what I see Doge as a disruption. Then we see where the federal government is not going to be funding a lot of these nonprofits and NGOs now, and they're pulling that money back. And so what that is disruption. So they can't pay the judiciary and the legal system and all of that, the money that they were paying, as well as the other individuals. And as long as they're paying that money, people are going to continue doing what they want them to do. That's going to stop because the money flow is being stopped. And you're going to start seeing more and more of that money flow being stopped. And you're going to start seeing that you're going to have stuff like the young boy who saw the stuff up in Minnesota and California, Nick Shirley. And you're going to start seeing stuff like that, stuff like I've had, and numerous others. There's been so many good patriots that are bringing this stuff forward. And so what that money is going to end up doing is it's going to end up going back into our system. It's going to go back. It's kind of like the Act Blue stuff we're looking at right now. We're seeing where money is going out through smurfing in a individual's name, and then there's a refund. But when the refund comes, it's going back to the Treasury. Well, no, that money is supposed to go back to the individual because it's a refund. Why is it being returned to the Treasury? It's returning to whence it came, which is Treasury, which is our tax money. So I think you're going to start finding a lot of the money that's been flowing through all of these NGOs, nonprofits, and all of these different schemes that these criminals have put together. That's going to be flowing back to us. And I think that's going to give a tax break on a lot of stuff that's happening. That's why you got the state of Virginia right now, who's pushing all of these taxes and all of these different things that are happening. And because they've got to keep the scam going. So they've been hit in Minnesota. They've been hit down in California. So where are we going to go? We're going to go to Virginia, and we got to keep the scam going. And of course, they're trying to get a stop put on that up in Virginia right now. So, you know, we're going to have to stomp it out as we see it happening. And I think a lot of that money is going to be returned to the Treasury and to the Fed. And I think in the long run, I'm not talking short term, I'm looking at long term, you're going to start seeing some of your taxes going down because it's not being spent on, you know, transsexual salamanders in Brazil.
Right. Crazy,
Yeah.
right? And, you know, the Southern Poverty Law Center, they funded a lot. They have a 500 million war chest, and they have been funding a lot of this, you know, they call, you know, those of us that are on the right and, you know, patriots and constitutional people, they call us fascists, but they are the fascists, and they have been paying people to play this fascist role, paying them so that they continue to get money, so they can use that money to go to, you know, different people. I'm not going to pick on the Democrats because it's the Republican our problem too. You know, this one party system that we're against right now, which, you know, we have 80% of Americans want the SAVE Act passed, but they can't pass it. It's like, hello, we put you in position of power. We are saying 80% of us are saying pass the SAVE Act, and they can't do it because they know if they do it, it's going to take them out of power. So it's, and who's funding them? So they don't care because they're getting money from, you know, SPLC and all these other Act Blue and all these other organizations, you know, Soros funded, you know, organizations probably we don't know about yet. That is, you know, causing the problems here in America.
Oh yeah. And people have, you know, they've got no idea. And I'm trying to find one of my charts. You know, I love my,
oh my God,
my I2 charts. And because, you know, what I do is I take the data that I can 100% identify, and then I end up putting it into an I2 chart to be able to discern the different connections. And so I'm going to try to pull up one of my charts or a couple of my charts for you. So maybe it'll help give people a visual on, you know, what we're looking at and how all of this stuff comes together. Because unless you understand the history of something, you're not going to know how to disrupt it and dismantle it. And you have to know the totality of everything. You have to know every person. You have to know all the people that they do business with, why they do business with them, and things like that. And that's what we've spent years and years putting together. And, you know, what we're finding is you have these political PACs. And one of the ones that I'm going to pull up for you right now is the, it's called the Best of Tennessee PAC. And people think, oh, okay, you know, that's just one PAC in the state of Tennessee. Well, yeah, it's one PAC in the state of Tennessee. But what people need to understand is when you deal with just this one PAC, it goes into everything in totality. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to share my screen right here with you. And share screen and entire screen. There we go. And let me, let's see. Here we go. And there you go. You should have a thing now. All right. So we see that, and it looks like, you know, a golf ball, whatever. But when we go to unpack this in totality.
Oh my God, look at all that. So I know what that's going to bring. Yeah, look at that.
Okay. So what we look at is this started out with a PAC called the Best of Tennessee, which is one of the PACs that attacked us and came after us and all of that. And this is a list of all the people that it's connected to. And what you end up seeing is you have the green lines, which is your money. That's your money lines, okay? The red line is one single line that runs congruently through the entire chart. So when we look at the Best of Tennessee PAC, we look at the individuals that are supplying money to it. We're looking at the people who are on the board, who these people or this PAC is supplying money to.
Wow.
And, you know, one of the people that's on there is Chloe Akers, and she states that they are a bipartisan PAC to bring everybody back together, but she is a huge anti-Trumper, anti-MAGA, basically liberal is who she is. And then one of the other people on the board is Michael McWhorter. Now, you and I have discussed Michael McWhorter in the past because the $1 million load of narcotics that we took down, that we discussed early on when you first brought me on, was part of a trucking company. That trucking company was giving money to Michael McWhorter's campaign to run for governor. We sent that information to Bob Corker, who was still in the Senate. Bob Corker ended up retiring 37 days, I think it was, later after I sent him this information.
Wow.
Okay.
So do you think he retired so he wouldn't have to reveal it?
Well, I don't know. I just find it very
and he was induced to retire.
Yeah, and you know, there he is, and you know, we find all of that very strange.
Corker, as President Trump called him.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, he's one of the ones that helped pave the way for the Iran deal.
Yeah.
And the reason he did that is because his buddies that he grew up with, the Haslams, who owned Flying J truck stops and Pilot truck stops, they got in trouble for what it was a rebate scheme in 2010. And they grew up with Bob Corker. Bob Corker played the bipartisan game of golf with Obama during the whole Iran stuff. The next thing you know, the U.S. attorney over East Tennessee has changed. And Haslam's brought in a guy by the name of William C. Killians, who was also a fraternity brother of the Corker and the Haslams. And all of a sudden, he made the case go away. They brokered a $92 million sale or $92 million deal to pay off the government. And the Haslams got away with it. And, of course, Bob Corker was a big part of that. And what people don't realize is he's tied directly to Obama. He's tied to one of the Tennessee Three, which is Gloria Johnson right here. I mean, we've got stuff that goes into voter fraud, election fraud. It goes into the Iran deal. And then it goes into Act Blue. We found all of the connections to Act Blue with all of that. We found the connections to Democracy Forward. We found all the connections with the Soros groups. And of course, where does that lead? That leads you right to this guy, Reed Garrett Hoffman, who helped finance the Russian dossier that they used to try to impeach President Trump.
Yeah.
And he's one of the main people that did it. And the other thing is Reed Garrett Hoffman and Bill Gates right here are in business, are joined with this Bradford L. Smith. And Bradford L. Smith has a nonprofit, if I can find it on the chart here. And the nonprofit is called KIND, which stands for Kids in Need of Defense, where they were taking children that did not have any guardians and flying them around the world. What do we call that? We call that child trafficking.
Yeah. How about that? Wow.
So,
you know, I remember back in the day where you were exposing the Maricopa mortgage fraud, and it was being sent all the way to your state, Tennessee, and that funded. You can trace down some of those lines. So that was very revelatory all the way back then. You know what was happening, and now you've built this out. Wow! Incredible work.
And I mean, it's got everybody in here. You know, it's got the Open Society Institute, Latinos for Justice, Mahente, which is transsexual stuff for the Latino community. You got Kimberly Ann Peeler, who's a part of all of this. And then who does Kimberly Ann Peeler work for? She's part of the Higher Heights for America Fund for Public Health. But she's also an employee of Letitia James.
Wow.
And then that group, Higher Heights for America, are the ones who backed Kamala Harris and Ian Omar.
Amazing.
And, you know, when we start digging into that, we got Jet Mortgage, and we end up finding a mortgage that's $26 million mortgage on a $260,000 house.
Yep. God. They just money launder that stuff so well. And of course, you know, Ilhan Omar, you know, she went from, I don't know, 100,000 to like, what was it, 10 or
Yeah.
30 million or something crazy.
Yeah.
And this
And
is
so
from this money laundering. You do this, we give you that.
yeah.
And you work for us now. And that's the way these people work.
Yeah. And I mean, we've got people like the guys like Mark Oliger, Lations, all of these guys that are the head guys of Act Blue, who are tied directly to NOI, the New Organization Institute. And the woman who's a founder of that is Rosalind Lemieux. And we have her tied to numerous other nonprofits that they're moving money through. And then she's also got some of those magic mortgages. And then we have people that are tied to that as well, like Professor Colin S. Greer out of New York, who's also over the Center for Social Inclusion and the Angelina Fund, but he's also he's the president of the Opus Dei Society, who just got sued in South America for human trafficking. And the actual government, I can't remember which country it is in South America, is actually helping the women who were human trafficked.
Wow. Now, Letitia James and Adam Shifty Shift were both, they caught them doing mortgage fraud, but nothing's ever come of that. And I think they were kind of like starting to reveal that that massive mortgage fraud that you started revealing long ago. Why didn't they? Why are they still walking the street? And what happened with that? Any idea?
I think there's more coming on that.
Yeah, that's what I feel too.
And that's all I'll say about that. There's more coming.
They just open the can of worms and are like letting it spread now.
So think about it like this: with your time in the military and agency, you always probe your adversary's ability, right?
Yeah.
You always probe to see what their pushback's going to be. So you probe and everything goes back and forth. And what you're doing is you're challenging each other back and forth to see what the reaction is going to be. And I think the early indictments that we saw was exactly that. Is they were basically facing off to see what the reaction was going to be, and they were probing one another to see, okay, this is how they react with this. This is how they react with this. That way, they knew how to build their case. So every time that they would do an indictment, they would see how they would fight that indictment, so they understood what type of warfare the opposition was going to use against them. Because once you know what your opposition is going to use for its tactics, then you know how to build a case.
Yeah. And, they have some very nasty tactics where someone's exposing them, and then lo and behold, the FBI raids their home and they find porn on their computer.
Right.
So that's one of the shifty ways they do business. Do we do something similar to them?
The old adage is you fight fire with fire. So there's no telling. I think
we did that overseas to the terrorists. So
I mean, there's no telling what they're doing. What they're using the ability. I think President Trump comes out with a lot of stuff, like when we went into Venezuela and the weaponization capability that we have. Yeah. And I think that weaponization that we use the weapons that we used in Venezuela is something that we probably used for probably a couple generations, and they're not just bringing it out and rolling it out to let the society know about it. I think that the reason they roll out that type of weaponry is because, it's out there, we got it, but what we have now is so much far advanced that's kind of yesterday's thing. So when it comes to, fighting fire with fire, I believe we have the ability and the capability to know anything and everything that's on somebody's computer, on any hand operated device, and all of that. We have a lot of stuff that's happening right now, like in Tennessee and several other states, where they're testing facial recognition in open, in the open when you're in the public. And, that's just, to me, it's unconstitutional. To me, that violates your Fourth Amendment. And, even as a cop, I would love anything to make things easier for law enforcement, because I'll be quite,
honest with y'all. I'm a 25-year veteran, and I've done everything from patrol all the way up to a chief of police. I've been a special agent, all of that. Okay. I've worked complex crimes, but cops are lazy. Okay. And then the administration doesn't want anybody who's going to rock the boat. So the easier that they can make it and give it to AI, they're going to do that. That way it doesn't cause riff when they start, actually developing and solving major cases. So I think our government has the ability to fight fire with fire, because believe me, when I'm looking at people like Reed Garrett Hoffman, who's into the AI technology, make no mistake, the bad is developing it just as well as the good is developing it, and they're using it against each other. And when we have AI go against AI, that's going to be one God versus another God. And I don't think people are prepared for that.
Yeah. And, to give you an example of how we use the technology that they had against them. So we would drive around. This was long ago, before we had the ability to go, like you're talking about, the surveillance and the phones and computers and all that kind of stuff. We would go into coffee shops where they had, the computer, stations where you could go online. The early days. So we're talking 89, 90s and early 90s and later. But the ability to go in and find people, we used to drive around in a car, and we would have a system that would look for their cell phone signal through the signals, and eventually we would track them down, and then a drone strike would take care of that business. But that's some of the stuff we used back then, but we didn't use it in a negative way like they do, like you're talking about. They use that technology to, come after us. They got all these, systems that are out there that are, I think New York has the most right now, surveillance systems where you walk down the street, they can see every facial recognition, and just like all body movement, everything. They got everything on you. You walk the streets. So President Trump recently said, I think we'll keep that stuff. And people were like, what? That's so, I thought you were going to give us freedoms. No, they're going to be used against them. We're going to flip it against them. They're trying to use it against us. At some point, we'll do away with all that. We'll have our freedoms. But at this point, unfortunately, we have to let those systems be maintained so we can use it against them.
Absolutely. And, that's what that's exactly what they're not expecting.
Yeah.
And, people need to understand there's these things, and they're called stingray devices. And the stingray device, I'm trying to look them up so I can maybe help people understand a little bit more, is basically a stingray device is a little box that people can put near towers and things like that. And it makes itself seem like it's a cell phone tower. And what it does is it captures your information, and they can actually dial it in directly for your cell phone if they want. And some of these stingray devices, you can put hundreds, if not thousands, of cell phone numbers in.
Yeah.
And they're able to listen to your conversations, catch all of your text messages, incoming, outgoing. And here's the thing is people in the public can buy these, public people. And they have found that police departments have had some of these in vehicles and have been picking up this information without a search warrant. So, think about that for a minute. So, make no mistake, our adversary has these devices. We know that. Yep. And they are utilizing them to try to gain an edge. And I think that's why you're seeing a lot of our people on our side and their side using different platforms that are through the internet to be able to discuss things back and forth. And I think that's one of the reasons Elon Musk's stuff is going to become so widely used, is because it's not pinging off a platform or a tower. It's going to be pinging off of his satellite, which makes it so the stingray is useless. So, are we using these? Absolutely, we're going to use them. And it's kind of like, it's no different than the Epstein stuff. If you look at the Epstein stuff and you start digging into that, which we did because it ties into some people here that we identified in Nashville early on.
Really?
And stuff like that. We start looking at that, and you got to look at Epstein. What was that? That was nothing but an operation. That was an information gathering operation that was probably being utilized by every single agency that gathers intel in the world. And he was to sale for the highest bidder.
Yeah.
And so he was gathering that information to utilize it to keep people in check. So everybody's asking, why isn't this stuff on Epstein coming out? Why isn't it coming out? Because he who holds that information now becomes the blackmailer, and then they can manipulate everything they need to flip the people they need to flip on our adversary.
Yeah. So I've had this guy on, and he wrote this book, Silicon Satan, and Craig Lund, and he talks about how he was in that system, and they're Luciferians. All the people at the top of these organizations. I don't know if I can't name names, but think of all the top people in Facebook and Oracle and those types of people. So they're Luciferian.
I bet Mike Pence is one of them.
Probably. Wow, that's a good call right there. I like that. So I mean, these groups are now. They're the world leaders. They're controlling this information. So some people were probably maybe getting a little butthurt that we're talking about how we're good guys are using this information, but they've been using it against us for a long time, guys. And so the gloves are coming off now, because we're getting down to the point where they have to be taken down. They have to be taken down now before they get too much power, and we will never overcome them.
Yeah. And, we're going to see little things here and there. And, when you're talking about fighting a war, you're going to see skirmishes here and there. And then it goes into full out battle. And I don't think people understand what the full out battle is, because I can promise you, when you see some of the indictments that I believe are coming, because the reason I believe indictments are coming is let's look at how the intel community picks up on possible terrorist attacks. They're looking at chatter. They're listening to the different wires and listening for the chatter. And when the chatter picks up, they know something's about to happen. Once in a while, they get lucky and they're able to determine, okay, it's going to be this state, this city, and this is a possibility, and these may be the people that are involved. And they're able to get it stopped before it happens. Sometimes they're not. But what we look at is chatter. And right now you have the ODNI releasing too much information right now and releasing it to the public and stuff like that. And there's too much chatter and documents being released for indictments not to be coming. Okay, what they're doing is that, again, that's battlefield prep. Yeah. And they're prepping the battlefield so the people, when it hits, they're not so, just caught in the dark and like, oh my gosh, what's happening? What that is that's chatter for our side to let people know, hey, this is coming. And there's just too much chatter right now everywhere that I'm looking at and some of the meetings I've been in. And I don't get involved in some of the stuff that I'm hearing. I'm a fly on the wall.
Yeah.
And I just listen, and, I just kind of put two and two together, and, and I've been pretty accurate with what I've been seeing. And it's coming because there's too much chatter.
Very good. And that's good, because in the past, there'd be a little chatter out there, and it was just for some specific people that would recognize that, kind of like code, if you see this is what's going down. But now everyone's being exposed to this. It used to be, like you're talking about, deep level intelligence, but now they're prepping society because of the magnitude of the the people that are eventually not just indicted, but arrested and tried and executed, a lot of these people. So we've been begging for this for a long time, but and I know a lot of people don't want to hear this, but there has to be a foundation that's laid. So you laid the foundation so you're not blowing everybody up when you do one of these moves, and everybody's like, what are you doing? And then there's confusion and there's pushback, and you want this to be as seamless as possible so you can move fast. Because as you know, once you hit, you got to move fast because then everybody's going to be running.
Yeah. Because, I mean, anytime you're doing anything like this, you come up with, your plan, your matrix, you come up with your operation plan, and you've got several different operation plans in their contingency plans in case X, Y, or Z happens. And you have to have that in place. And I think that's what's being done right now is they're getting their contingency plans in place. And people have to understand when we won our independence, it wasn't something that was nicely done and it was handed over and we just signed some documents. Okay. And the reason is because when you put somebody's back against the wall and you put them in a corner, they're going to fight. And I think that's why we saw the attack on President Trump and, last week and a half ago. So you have to understand that as we put their back against the wall and we corner them more, I think we're going to have more attacks coming. And the further we put them into the corner, the worse the attacks are going to be. So people are going to have to understand that, there's bad things that could happen because they're going to try to stop their people from going to prison and being held accountable. And they're going to pull every string they can. They're going to do everything they can to stop it. And so people really need to keep their head on the swivel and pay attention to what's happening around them, especially when they're in malls and schools and universities and hospitals and things like that. Because the more that these people are put in the corner, the more they become like a rabid dog. And, that's not just the liberal Democrats. You have to remember the Democratic Party was hijacked. It's only a few Democrats that hold control over the rest of the party. And then you have a lot of the Rhino Republicans that are also part of this operation that are right there with the liberal Democrats. It's they're just playing a different side of the field and keeping stuff on their side of the field moving so nobody can really, do anything with it. And people don't understand that. This is being played by both sides. That's why you have Act Blue and Win Red. Is they're both doing the same thing. It's just finding out who is who and what each individual is doing and who are they doing it for.
Yeah, and some events are being hijacked before they actually happen, and they're playing them out the way the good guys wanted to play out. So what do you think goes through the bad guys' minds when they see that they were going to do this really horrific event and then it doesn't go down, and then the people that they had that were going to be part of that event are killed and nothing really happens the way they planned it, and it looks like it did, but it didn't. What do you think about those events?
They got to be miffed. They got to be upset. And so then let's think about this. This is a couple of guys in a basement somewhere going, shit, I can't believe that didn't happen. Okay, it's okay. It didn't happen. We're going to come out bigger and better, and this is what we're going to do now. And so what they're going to do is they're going to try planning something bigger and better. And of course, if it's bigger and better, that means it has more moving pieces, which means it has a greater opportunity for it to be taken out because there's probably more moving parts, more people, loose lips sink ships, and what happens? That gets taken out. And so, they're always going to try to come up with something bigger and better. And, you just got to remember, it's kind of like what we're trying to do right now. Keep it simple, stupid. KISS. It's that old military thing. KISS. Keep it simple, stupid. It's like everybody wants to go after Act Blue for this and this and this and this. Not us. No, I'm a cop. Let's keep this simple so everybody can understand it. What is Act Blue and what are they doing with smurfing? Oh, that's identity theft. Okay, well, we've got one person that we have identified in one state that we're in right now looking at, and they use that person's identity 35,000 times to give fake donations, right?
It's one of the seniors, right?
Yeah.
They go after the seniors quite a bit.
That's exactly right. And so they used this elderly person's identity 35,000 times to give a fake donation. Well, what is that? That's 35,000 counts, felony counts of identity theft. But what is it on top of that? That's 35,000 counts of elder abuse. Those two things
are very, very simple to discuss with a jury because they all have parents and grandparents that are worried to death about having their identity stolen, right?
Right.
And then if you prey upon an elderly victim, somebody wants somebody to be accountable. So when you have that happening, that's 35,000 elderly abuse, 35,000 identity theft. That's 70,000 counts or 70,000 felony counts for one individual. Okay. And that doesn't even include the wire fraud. We can throw that in there too. So, let's keep it simple. There's no reason to try to make things trickier and let's go into RICO and let's go into this and go into that, because the only thing you're doing is you're messing with the jury's mind back and forth, the defense and the prosecution. Whoever's putting on the best theater is going to win that. So let's keep it simple. We've got this identity theft. We've got this, and that is elder abuse. And that's what we want our convictions on. Now, if we have 10,000 people across the United States through 50 states that have done that, and you have all of these counts against Act Blue, that's something very easy for any jury to be able to understand. So coming up with a plan that's bigger and better and this and that, it's not always the way to go. Keep it simple, stupid.
Yeah. And that's kind of where it's going. Kind of like, Comey 8647, they're going to get him on that. But they're not talking about, how he colluded with Hillary Clinton and, James Brennan and or John Brennan with the CIA to sabotage our country and the Russia hoax and all that kind of stuff, trying to take down President Trump. So, yeah, there's a lot more moving parts of that. But, yeah, get them on something simple and basic at this point. And then maybe at some point they get a military tribunal and, if you've done treason, which a lot of these guys have, then that's like we're talking about that firing squad.
See, and that's where that needs to be done. Is that needs the stuff that is complicated, like RICO, that goes into the treason and the sedition. That's where it needs to be done, is in a military tribunal. It does not need to be done in a grand jury that was put together of people who weren't smart enough to get out of jury duty. Okay,
right?
Because a jury is going to indict a ham sandwich. That's just a fact. Court, civil court or criminal court, is nothing more than a theatrical production. And the person that puts on the best show that the jury likes the most is who wins. Yeah. So when you take it to a military tribunal for treason and sedition, that's where those charges need to be made, is a military tribunal. And then the accountability needs to come. No different than they did with Saddam Hussein. Like this, and this. They presented their evidence. They presented their defense. And the next thing you know, he's in a room being hung. And there we go. Quick and simple.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I never even thought of it like that, because I'm like, just get him in a military tribunal. No, we can get him for something simple, and get him in prison, and then we can go big. So that's brilliant, because as they're still out, they still have power and they still have protection. But if you can get them in and they're like, oh, they just got me on something simple, I'll be in here for a year or two. And then next thing you know, they're in front of firing squad. I love it.
That's right. Yeah, because you've got little things called superseding indictments and all of these different things, and it can be moved over to a tribunal very easily.
Wow. Wow. So amazing. So here's from the chat. This is from Julie. Sean's show with you, MJ, was the one that opened up my instincts to what was happening. The connections were profound. So that's the beauty of these shows that we have done over time. And I know you're not just on my channel. A lot of you go over to Alpha Warrior, his channel. We're all like the same mind. We've done some shows together, so it's been really fun. But we're helping people wake up to this, and like we were talking about earlier, we're kind of like laying a foundation so people aren't so freaked out. But our audience is not going to be freaked out at all. They're going to be like, oh yeah, I see what I've been telling you all these years. So here we go.
Yeah.
It's going to help.
Yeah, this audience is like, let's go. Like, we're ready. It's it's the Fox viewers that are kind of teetering, that are like, I don't know. And then you have Grant Stinchfield. He's a great guy. He and I talk quite often. I've been on his show,
And, Grant is out there. He's telling it too,
Nice.
and his viewers are ready for some action,
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of really good people out there that are ready, that have got their audience educated on what needs to happen, what is happening, how it's happening, and things like that. And, again, I think the whole thing with the Southern Poverty Law Center being indicted, that is a huge thing when it comes to media, because the media loves to quote the Southern Poverty Law Center and this and that, and they bow down to them left and right. Well, now that they're under indictment, well, guess what? That's going to start changing.
Yeah, definitely. And here's another one. Nothing freaks me out after being awake for so long. Thank you all. So that's our intention. That's our goal, to have more people that are like that, so that when these things start happening, we're not getting, like we've seen with, probably Act Blue and Southern Poverty Law Center have been paying people to go out and riot and protest and so forth. They don't have that money anymore
Right.
to do that. And so they're not going to get in the way like they have been, and causing disruptions and causing people to wonder if this is the right thing. Just keep the focus. It's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, they made Antifa, a terrorist organization, and we got, now they're looking at opening up a case on Soros for funding Antifa. Oh boy, you talk about some disruption and dismantling. Well, there we go.
Oh my God! Wow, brilliance! I love the way things are going. So, any other thoughts of what's coming that you could share with us?
Again, just looking at reading the tea leaves and looking at the activity that's been happening, the documents that are being released by ODNI, NSA, the Trump administration, and how they're declassifying them to be able to put them in public. I think that is very telling. Again, that's a lot of chatter, and pay attention to the names that they keep repeating and releasing the documents on. I think you're going to end up seeing Sheriff Joe out of Arizona's information coming up to play in a very major role, where he was investigating Obama's birth certificate.
Right.
I think some of that's going to be coming into play. Just pay attention to the stuff that's being released, the documents that are being declassified and put into the public, and who those documents are on, because I think that's the chatter that you need to listen to on what's coming.
Very good. Very good. So one other thing, to switch gears a little bit. So Muslims, we've got a lot of Muslims here, and they're not on the good side. Infidel. Yeah, you're an infidel. Brilliant. So I guess I'm talking to the right person here. Now, I spent 30 plus years, in the Middle East. I think what's happening in Iran has to happen, and it's going to be good when that goes down, because they foment a lot of the terrorism, and it's come to America now. Unfortunately, what are your thoughts going forward?
So I'm looking at Texas and what Abbott's done and allowed all of these mosques that have been able to come in. We've had attacks there. We've had attacks up in Bloomfield Hills, Michigan, and things like that. The simple fact is I'm going to say a lot of the Islamic people are not, they don't believe in a Christian's right of existence. Okay. Wow. We are the infidel. All right. Now, have I met some good Muslim people? Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I have. But I've also had family that escaped a Middle Eastern country, I'll say, that was Islam. Wow. And they were Catholic, and they came out while Saddam was going through the ranks, and just a beautiful family. And like I said, they're married into my family, and the mother, Yuma, was absolutely just a beautiful soul of a woman, and I love to spend time with them. And so, and this is a person who's from an Islamic country who was Catholic. And they told me the stories about the rape rooms, the torture rooms, and all of that, and how they lost family members. And Islam is not a peaceful religion, but we also have to remember that Christians are not a peaceful religion. As far as all of the synagogues coming here and the Muslims being here and what's happening there and the attacks, and the stuff that's not being released by the government, especially under the Obama and Biden administrations, about
things that have entered the United States that never should have. That's an issue. Those are very big issues that we need to pay attention to, a lot of attention to. We've basically allowed the enemy into our gates, and that's an issue. I know from being a police officer for over 25 years, and a lot of that was doing interdiction on the highways and byways, and we were sent out intel reports where certain individuals were brought into the United States for certain types of education training, and they disappeared while they were here, and the State Department was looking for them. Well, why? Well, I'll tell you why, is because they were considered a threat. Well, they should have never been allowed in the United States in the first place to receive training or education if they were a threat, and then they have to put it out on the blotter for local law enforcement to be on the lookout for these individuals. Okay, so we have people here that want to do us harm, and you have the stuff that's happening in Texas, and that's not okay. That's not all right. Abbott needs to be held accountable for allowing the enemy in the gates and taking all of the money that he did, and that's part of the accountability that needs to come.
So here's a question, Mike: is this the next civil war? Now, I don't think it's going to be a civil war per se, but if this doesn't get handled correctly, there could be some pushback, very, very heavy pushback from the public, because we're not gonna have another evil election, and we're not going to have this incredible threat live within our borders. So at some point, I believe it's going to be handled. I totally trust in the administration right now, but we have to get behind this, and that's why it's great that you guys are hearing from two experts in this field. Unfortunately, I say unfortunately because you are talking about some horrific things, and I can tell you, I've seen these horrific things in other countries. You're right. You can't be any other religion but Muslim in all the pretty much every one of these Middle Eastern countries, with a few exceptions, and that's because they're making a lot of money and they'll allow that. But here in America, they've quietly invaded, and they're ready to strike. So there could be some problems going forward on that end. So if like we don't have enough problems, we have to, the people in Maricopa County and Arizona turning that state into a fascist state and so forth. So, all right. So I know you got probably a limited.
Asking about the canine video.
Oh, the canine video. Have you seen that? Have you seen that video with the latest one? That's at, because I know you're a canine guy for a long time.
Yeah.
There was, I don't know if you've seen it yet, but there was at the assassination guy. I guess he was like running through, and there was a dog that alerted on him a couple times, and the guy pulled the dog back and turned, and the guy ran out.
Okay.
I mean, I've been around dogs,
Yeah.
We had very high level VIPs, presidents, and dignitaries, prime ministers, all kind of stuff. I would set up groups. I was there for protection details and so forth, and we had some badass dogs.
Yeah.
They sniffed for bombs, and if there was a problem, they would tear somebody to pieces.
Yeah.
So I was kind of wondering. I don't know if you've seen it yet, but what you're
just what you're telling me. If the dog alerted the dog, I know exactly what you're talking about. I haven't seen the video, but I already know. Is the dog was probably doing an open air search like they usually do. The dog picked up and probably started kind of going like this until he came up and actually hit on that guy. And what that is where the dog's kind of going back and forth like this. That's called bracketing. The dog smells it here, and the dog smells it here, and then he brackets back and forth in that area until he pinpoints that odor is what it's doing. And what happens is a lot of times in open air searches like that, especially in a building, airports and things like that, is a dog will bracket back and forth until it pinpoints that odor. So what that dog was probably hitting on was the gunpowder, which is one of the number one things that they train, especially when it comes to the bomb dogs. And so
what it is you have a handler who didn't trust his dog. And you got to, I've always been told, and I've been a canine handler for years.
Yep.
I've literally got 4 canines here at the house right now.
Oh,
and
thanks for doing that.
Awesome. It's, yeah, I mean, they're my babies.
You're super safe. Oh my
God.
Oh
yeah. I got a Belgian Malinois right now that's ready to take somebody's head off. And
they're the nicest dogs, aren't they?
Oh, she's the biggest baby you'll ever see in your life.
They'll like rip you to pieces if you're a threat. Oh my God.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And so what the dog was doing is it was probably bracketing back and forth until it pinpointed that odor, which was on that individual. And the handler did not trust. He didn't trust his dog. Right. I've always been taught that we're the monkey on the other end of the leash. It's not the dog.
Right.
We're the idiot on the other end of that leash. And if we're not paying attention to what that dog's doing, again, we're the idiot. You got to pay attention to what your dog's doing. It's had the training. It's going to follow through on its training, and it's going to do what it's supposed to do. It's up to you to identify the cues that canine is exhibiting. And he ignored those cues, which was a huge mistake.
Yeah. Yeah, it's sad, but these events are going to continue to happen. Now the ballroom that President Trump is getting there, it's interesting because it's got a underground part. That's why it's taking so long. That's going to be a huge bunker system. Drones won't be able to have an impact on it. So that means they're planning for more of this stuff in the future. Because think about it. You take down, Comey and Brennan, and you get to Hillary Clinton, which she's going to be way down the list before we get her, I think, because she has so much power.
I don't know.
Oh, what do you got?
I don't know. I've been talking to some people that are tied into that, and I think there's more to come. I think there's a civil suit that's been in the works for several years. Nice. On taxes and stuff like that may be some of the undoing. And I think we had some emails that have been released or emails that were found. I think that may be sooner than what people think.
Right. Good. So, they've taken down big mobsters for tax evasion. So, it could happen. But just like we were talking about, you get something simple that, a jury, hopefully it's a jury in a good place, not DC, but a jury someplace where you're going to get a real fair trial, and they get put away for a few years, and then it's like they start to bring out all the other stuff. I'm so glad you said that. I think that's what's going to happen. They'll get them behind, but it's just for a few years, and everybody's like, oh yeah, that's good, and then all the other stuff starts coming out, and more and more. Right. And more. It's like, wow, they did all that. Well, I didn't know that. Well, heck, they should be executed then.
Right. Yeah, it's going to get to a point where the public is almost going to demand it. So, it's kind of no different than Nick Shirley is that created such a public outcry in Minnesota that it forced the federal government to do what it's doing. And then they started executing search warrants at the Leaning Center this past week, And so what it's going to do is the more information that's released, the more that the public's going to demand action.
Yeah. Brilliant stuff. Sean, always a pleasure. I know we used to say you can reach Sean here, but do you still have a place where people can reach you? Or? Yeah.
So the biggest place to reach us, they can go, what they did, the Southern Poverty Law Center, or their reporter dubbed me the conspiracy cop. So I've kind of taken that away from them, and I have the conspiracy cop. It's a conspiracycop.com website. Nice. And so we've got that. We got some trademark stuff on that. So if somebody goes to use it, we're going to, use the litigation. And so we've got that. They can hit us up there, and they can send any emails, donations, or anything there. They can find out more about me and my background there. They can also, the biggest thing that we're on is X at, I think it's at FTG Solutions LLC. And so we're on X everywhere. And we've been kind of getting some pretty big posts out lately.
Yeah. And, so you got a team that you guys come up with these great videos that you're doing? Or is that just your
That's me. I'll be honest with you, Mike. That's me just getting pissed off.
I know. That's what I thought. I'm like, damn, he's like blowing it up.
Yeah, yeah. When they got that, they're getting angry, Sean, and I've just had enough. And I make a video, and we've had some of them get up to 5 million views, and some of them get 2 million views. And we were real surprised to have people like the Hodge twins and all of that start sharing some of our stuff, But in all actuality, it's like everything that we've been seeing. It's funny because the EB-5 program that we were investigating, all of a sudden the Trump administration came out and started hammering that. We started talking about having a presidential point team on fraud, and then all of a sudden what happens? They have a presidential point team on fraud. So it's like all of a sudden we say something, and within a few weeks we start seeing stuff happening, and it's like, okay, who's paying attention? So it's a very interesting dynamic, and I don't want to take credit for it, but I just find it very coincidental. I'll put it that way. So they can hit us up at the conspiracycop.com. They can send us emails, prayers. You can do the donations. You can go to the our X page at FTG Solutions LLC and hit us up there. And that's where I get a lot of my activity is there. And I think sometimes I'm a little more like Trump and some things I shouldn't say, but I do anyways. And the things that probably I shouldn't say are the ones that end up getting 100,000 views.
I know. I'm like that sometimes too. Everybody's like, I can't believe you said that. I'm like, I said that? Oh, shit.
Yeah. But, we're just saying what people are thinking. And, that goes back to the whole psyop of everybody being attacked for what they think. People have lost their sense of humor on this and that. Yeah. And everything had to be politically correct. And the simple fact is when the political correctness came in, that's when the psyop started on this country. And you know what? The hell with political correctness. If you don't like what I've got to say, you have a right to be able to tune me out, and I have a right to tune them out. And my freedom of speech doesn't stop at where you're offended. Okay. As long as I'm not violating the fighting words doctrine or anything like that, I can pretty much say whatever I want. And if you don't like that, I'm sorry. You can say whatever you want, and I'm going to protect your First Amendment just as much as I'm going to protect mine.
Wow, fantastic, Sean. That's beautiful. And you are truly a benefit to the world. I can't say enough good things about you. I mean, I look at your light. I look at your light coming from your eyes. You got a lot of light these days. So God's on your side. So thank you for all you're doing and what you're going to do in the future. I'm sure there's a lot more coming. And thanks for coming on. It's been a little bit. So hopefully it won't be too much of a little bit before I have you on again to talk about some more stuff coming up. Yeah.
Absolutely. And Mike, it's just a breath of fresh air to be able to just be on here with you. And my love to Tracy and the family. And we miss you. And hopefully we'll be together soon at the event that Tracy and I were discussing the other day.
Okay, yeah.
Like I said, I'll give you a big hug, but it's not going to be one of them gay hugs.
It's as long as you do two slaps in the back.
Yeah, 2 slaps. We're good.
Yeah, slaps. Any more than that? A little bit.
Yep.
All right. Too much. All right, brother. Well,
be
it's so
safe.
fun to talk with you. Yeah, it's been great. Thanks a lot.
All right. Much love. See ya.